On a random WWE Monday Night RAW on October 28, 2019, Carolina was introduced to the world by Sin Cara. It was a very random and out of nowhere reveal, and nobody really knew who this Carolina was. But as it turns out, she was only 19 years old when she was first on WWE TV, and she would stick around in WWE but only for a couple of years, and it ended in a very depressing way. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the story of WWE's forgotten luchadora and why her run and her booking was ultimately a failure. So as I said, Carolina debuted on a random Raw in October 2019, but if we're gonna be all technical about it, her first actual WWE appearance had been on an NXT live event just a couple of weeks before, and in fact, she was only signed to the WWE itself only a couple of months earlier that year in August, which is a pretty quick turnaround for being signed and then making it onto main roster TV, just about 2 months. And before WWE, she had wrestled in her home country of Chile under the name Jessie, and very quickly was now in a whole new environment being on WWE Monday Night RAW. And it was the very next week on Raw after her debut where she would make her debut in ring and have her first match on WWE TV. She teamed up of course with Sin Cara to take on Andrade and Zelina Vega. And hey, this is a decent first showing from Carolina. Sin Cara and Andrade spent most of the match working, but Zelina Vega and Carolina worked the last bit of the match where Zelina Vega got the pin on Carolina with a basement Rana. But honestly, for a first TV match, it was a good performance, and her and Sin Cara worked really well together, and I thought they worked well against Zelina Vega and Andrade as well. So how do WWE follow this up? Well, they have Carolina never appear on Raw ever again. And that's because after this match, Sin Cara went backstage, and after finding out that there was no direction for the Sin Cara character, he asked for his release right then and there, and the entire thing with him and Carolina was scrapped as Sin Cara was written off TV the next week, with Carolina nowhere to be seen by his side. Straight after that Raw tag match, she was sent back down to working the NXT live events once again, and was renamed to Catalina Garcia, and going into 2020, she was working exclusively live events for NXT, and the one appearance she did make on NXT TV on the 15th of January 2020 episode was just to be a body in a women's battle royal, where she was thrown out and eliminated very early on in the match, in fact, the very third person to be thrown out. And just like that, she was sent straight back down to the live event scene. But of course, not too long after, in about March time, WWE were forced to do all their shows behind closed doors and cancel all their live events, and they were only to be doing TV tapings now. Which surely must have meant good news for Catalina Garcia, as it means that now she can maybe be given an opportunity on NXT, and with no live events to work, she naturally has to work the TV tapings, and lots more people should be getting opportunities. But no, she did work some TV tapings, but they were very occasional. Her return to TV in fact was on Main Event, where she had been renamed again, and she was now just known as simply Catalina. She would wrestle Asuka on the 23rd of April episode in a match that went longer than I thought it would, clocking in at 7 minutes, but the match is mostly dominated by Asuka. And while Catalina did get some offense in and did get to showcase some of her stuff, 95% of the match was just Asuka kicking the shit out of her. And hey listen, for a main event match during the Panoramic, it was decent stuff, and I'd say that Catalina more than held her own. The next week, Catalina would face Bianca Belair on Main Event, and this match went about 4.5 minutes, with Bianca Belair of course getting the win here and dominating the match. But not a bad showing for Catalina once again, and you'd think with these performances and the fact she had worked 2 shows in a row against top talent that maybe she'd start to get booked more, but her next appearance after this wouldn't be until 4 months later on a September NXT episode as, yep, you guessed it, a body in a Battle Royal match where she was eliminated early on. And then after this Battle Royal jobber appearance, it wouldn't be yet another 4 months again before her next NXT appearance, and that next appearance would come on the 6th of January 2021 New Year's Evil episode of NXT, as she was making her singles debut for the brand against Xia Lee, and Catalina was coming back with a new name yet again, her third rename in just about a year and a half in the company, and a new look as she was now known as Katrina Cortez. And this was also Xia Li's return match after she had been hyped up for weeks, and yeah, she absolutely destroyed Katrina Cortez in this match. The match lasted a minute and 28 seconds in total, and it was an absolute squash match. A short but not so sweet singles NXT debut, and of course following this match there would be yet another long period of time where she wouldn't make any WWE appearances. In fact, despite the rebrand to Katrina Cortez, she was off TV for 7 months before coming back to make her 205 Live debut now. Like, wow, she really did wrestle on every brand except for SmackDown. They just had her doing everything. This match was against Valentina Feroz in a losing effort, of course. And her next appearance was the next month on the debut episode of NXT 2.0, where she was squashed by B-Fab this time. But regardless, it was a good opportunity to be on the debut NXT 2.0, as many new faces were introduced on that show, and it could be a new beginning for her. However, Catalina would wrestle twice more on 205 Live the next month, first in a tag match in a losing effort, and then in a singles match against Saori, which she of course lost. In case you haven't noticed by now, she was pretty much just a jobber in the WWE, and just a week after this match, on November 4th, 2021, she was released from her WWE contract. Ouch. And so overall, a bit of a bust of a run. She literally lost every WWE match she ever had on TV. It seemed as though WWE never thought that she was really TV ready, which obviously explains her long absences between appearances, but doesn't really explain why she was hot-shotted to Raw so early on in her career, and begs the question of what could have possibly happened had Sin Cara not asked for his release. Like, would she have stayed on Raw? My personal theory is that WWE didn't think she was TV ready, so was using her on live events, but when COVID happened, there were no live events, and it meant that she had to wrestle only occasionally, and that hindered her development. Fast forward to NXT 2.0, the debut episode, where lots of new people were making their debuts, and I'm guessing that WWE just weren't impressed by her compared to all the other new women that were coming into the division, and so released her shortly after, as more new people were debuting who they would much rather invest in and spend their time with. And Catalina was someone who, like I said, they just seemingly never thought was TV ready, and I think that's very evident in how little they used her for the time that they had her. And following her release from the WWE, her work visa expired, meaning that she had to unfortunately sell everything and leave the USA, and she returned to Chile, where she would continue her wrestling career under the name La Catalina, and in early 2023, she was signed to the Mexican wrestling promotion CMLL, where she still wrestles actively now, so it's good to know that her career is back on track. So yeah, in case you were ever wondering what happened to that random female luchador that appeared on that random episode of Raw that one time with Sin Cara, that's what happened. She lasted about 2 years in the company and only wrestled about 8 times on TV and lost every single time. But she's still only 23 years old, so there's plenty of years and plenty of time left to see what can happen in her wrestling career.